As we make way for Daniel Jeremiah on the program.
What's up, Harris? Hey, what's up, Harris? Hey, what's up? Hey, Dan. Let's see, man.
All right.
So I'm glad you finally got to the bottom of Kurt hating Tom Brady. So that was fun. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
That was asterisk by Super Bowls for Tom Brady there.
And he's been saying that behind the scenes for years. It was nice to see him finally come out here and say it publicly.
That's great. He's going to love you for this. Did you ever see a Brady college tape?
I did, actually, but I was, he came into the league before I got into scouting, but I started in 2003, and we do a thing when I was with the Ravens called Scout School. So in the evenings at training camp, everybody had to do a presentation, and the idea was to let the whole group learn something and grow. And somebody did the how we all screwed up on Tom Brady presentation and went through and kind of showed his tape, read all the reports, and kind of went through the background.
Okay, but wait a minute. He lost his job to Drew Henson.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can look back and have revisionist history and say, man, I knew. Who knew?
Well, the interesting thing was it was more so in the background than it was in the description of the play. Like it was, and I don't remember the exact words, but it was like this guy's a maniacal competitor. All the wiring stuff, all that stuff was just off the charts. And so the point of the process was sometimes if the skill levels meets the threshold is adequate and you have the elite off the charts character, work ethic, all that stuff, that those guys can be better. Now, there's no way anybody could ever know that he was going to do what he did, but there were some little nuggets and little morsels in there.
What was a red flag when you were scouting?
Red flag, gosh. I always thought it was a red flag when you go back in the day when I was scouting, you had the video guys because everybody didn't just have everything on their iPad. And if the video guys did not know the quarterback, had no relationship with the quarterback, that always made me nervous because the guy has not been in there watching extra tape. That should be one of his best friends. How do I get access? I want to come in here and watch this. So that was just one kind of random.
And I always thought if you were going to talk to somebody and and I was told this, talk to the equipment manager.
Yeah.
Talk to people who are around. How does he treat people who aren't important per se? How is he in the locker? Those kind of things. And I remember running into a guy who worked at Washington State with Ryan Leaf.
Yeah.
And he gave me a heads up without telling me. I mean, he was saying, boy, wait till you get a load of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I'm just saying. And, so then I eventually found out what he was saying is, the reputation with Ryan at the time was not a great teammate.
Yeah.
There's other things in play with Ryan there, and maybe he shouldn't have been up as high as, now it was Peyton versus him, and nobody wins that competition battle.
Yeah, no question. We always would do it at the Combine and when you're interviewing guys at All-Star games, one of the questions we would always ask is if you can take one teammate with you, who would you want to play with at the next level? And it was kind of interesting because some guys will come up over and over and over again through that process.
And it's not character assassination, but it certainly felt like we needed a story. Now we got an unnamed scout or some, executive who's talking bad about Shedeur Sanders. Has anybody said anything negative about somebody else in this draft as far as their personality or their ability to interview?
I would say it this way. There's obviously going to be, in almost every single player in every draft, there's going to be somebody in the draft room who's a fan and someone who's not. But with Shedeur this year, Dan, it is so, and I'm not comparing this players or people, but it's so reminiscent to Johnny Manziel where the spotlight is so bright and there's never been more information coming out on a player than there has been on Shedeur. Again, totally different players and people, but I don't recall this much attention on one player since we had the Johnny Manziel draft.
And I remember an executive saying Johnny was unbelievable as an interview.
Well, he was charismatic. He'd
Yes.
come in and fill the room.
Yes.
I mean, his pro day is going to go down as one of the all-timers. The guy put on pads. There was blaring music, and the former president of the United States was on the sideline watching him.
How did everybody miss on him?
I just think it was so fun. It was so tantalizing. I went and saw him play several times live, including in bowl games, and it was just so magical at the college level. And you had, you know, the Alabama program and where that group was, and you're like, this guy, nobody can do this against them, and this kid can. And then I always remembered it's one of his first preseason games. It was on TV, and I happened to tune in. It might have been against the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember texting my buddy Bucky Brooks, because we had both been at a bowl game and sat next to each other, and we kind of got taken in by this whole thing. And the first preseason game, I texted him, and I go, Bucky, dang, he looks little. It's like all of a sudden on a field with NFL guys, it didn't look great.
But all you had to do was ask a couple of questions about.
Oh, yeah, there was all the stuff that was.
But could he have played in the NFL at a high level? You know, let's say he's focused. Let's say he's clean and committed. Did he have the traits to be able to be a successful quarterback?
I think he did.
Given that style.
I think he did. And I know he would have had to play a little bit more on time, a little bit more on schedule. But the guy, he had huge hands. He had a huge arm. He was obviously ultra athletic and creative. You needed to kind of reel that stuff in. But we never got a chance. Because of the stuff off the field, we never got a chance to see what that could have looked like.
It's like he wanted to be Favre, but there's only one Favre.
Yeah, and he was pocket Favre because he was, a much smaller guy.
All right, we're talking to Daniel Jeremiah. He'll be the lead analyst on the draft coming up tonight, and that's NFL Network starting at 8 Eastern. The draft starts where? Now, let me get to your quote.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got it right. You got Browns are taking Travis Hunter.
Feels 100% like that. There's been a lot of talk in the last 24 hours, which someone needs to write a book on the night before the draft rumors that never come true. They're fantastic. They really are fantastic. But there's been a lot of, they could move out, and maybe we'll all be shocked and they do, but it all feels like that's going to be Travis.
Okay, and then your quote was he will major in offense, minor in defense.
Which has never been done.
Do you agree with that approach that he should be more offense than defense?
I do. I mean, that's how I see him. I think he's more impactful on offense. I don't think, to me, as a corner, he's best when you kind of play him off, when he's in zone, when he's an off man. He can see the picture. He can set traps. He can then go make plays on the ball. But this is not like Pat Surtain, you got this guy, and we'll not worry about that side of the field. Like, that's not the style of corner he is. Whereas on offense, every time he touches the ball, he's impactful. And I can get the ball in his hands a lot, and he can help us win games, and I can find ways for him to get on defense. But historically, when you've had players, and nobody's done it to the level he did in terms of the volume of snaps, but if it was a major minor, it was always, okay, you have to learn this defense, be in the defensive meeting room, and we'll sprinkle in a package of plays where it's a bubble screen, a reverse, a go, and you don't necessarily have to meet, with the offense. This one is the first time I can ever remember where I've thought, this kid, I want him full-time on offense.
I still get the feeling somebody's going up to get Ashton Jeanty. And I don't know what your intel is on that, but he feels like, I could tell by that reaction, you went,
He's my third player. I think there's 3 elite players in this draft. And I think Cam Ward is a really good quarterback, and I have no problem with Tennessee taking him. But to me, the 3 blue chip players in any draft are those 3 guys. Okay. Abdul Carter, it's Hunter, and it's Jeanty. So I love Jeanty. To me, it's just around the league, you can get comfortable taking a running back there, but I'd be curious to see if somebody's going to really move a lot of resources for a running back.
But don't you think Saquon opened people's eyes here that now granted, he was the missing piece on a Super Bowl winning team, whereas with the Giants, he was good, but they weren't any good. So if Ashton Jeanty goes to Jacksonville, they're not very good. Or would the Patriots be squirrely enough to go, you know what, let's take this guy if he's going to be great there? Or do the Raiders wait and go, let him fall into our lap?
I brought this up with the general manager the other day, and he goes, you realize the 4 best running backs in the NFL last year were all had in free agency? They were all out there for you. Another example of everybody talks about you can draft them in any round, and he's like, there's also going to be guys available in free agency every year. So his whole point was, great player, we have him highly rated. If he's there, we'll pick him. But in terms of taking a bunch of resources and going to get him, they were, not so much into that.
What is it like when you know that your organization is maybe starting to panic a little bit? Have you been in a situation where all of a sudden you're on the clock and the guy you thought you were getting is not there?
One of the stories I've told in the past is I was in Baltimore and we were a Haloti Ngata team. That was our guy. That's who we wanted. We wanted to put a big guy in front of Ray Lewis, and he was just the perfect pick. Well, Phil Savage at the time was the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and Phil had been with us in Baltimore, and so Phil knew that we were going to like that type of player. So they're on the clock just in front of us, and he calls Ozzie, and they have the conversation, and Phil's like, we're going to take Haloti Ngata. And Ozzie goes, okay, well, yeah, go ahead. He goes, well, you want to trade? And Ozzie, he ends up kind of putting him on hold, and he's kind of looking around the room. And he's like, they're not taking Haloti Ngata, but he knows we want Haloti Ngata. So he's trying to hold us up for a draft pick.
Wow.
And so I think it ended up being a 6th-round pick. And Ozzy's, obviously he's got so much wisdom and was like, look, we can call their bluff, but it's a 6th-round pick, and that guarantees that we get him. Just give him the 6th-round pick, and we'll go up and get him.
We did some hot takes here. I want you to judge these. Marvin, give Daniel Jeremiah your hot take.
Jackson Dart, he will go to the Los Angeles Rams at the end of the first half. And then my second one was, oh my gosh, I think I forgot it.
It was too hot.
Oh, I think Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Going to the Patriots.
Ooh.
With 4 overall.
Yeah. I think that would put you in round 3 of hot ones. I don't think that gets you to the to the playoffs of the hot ones,
right.
spicy. But look, the Rams, that's an option. When I talked to the guys in that building, I didn't get the sense. It kind of feels like they want to make a push right now. You bring back your quarterback, and you feel like you're this close to getting the Eagles last year. So they want to help Matthew, not try and eventually replace him. So I would be surprised on that one. Warren, it just the Patriots seem pretty locked in that they have to get better at tackle. They were just so bad there last year. So that would surprise me as well.
Todd, your hot takes.
I had the Broncos moving up from 20 to take Boise State Bronco Ashton Genty to become a Denver Bronco.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about the 2 teams that could move up are the Broncos and the Eagles, 2 teams that could be aggressive. And with the Broncos,
so that's not a hot take, then.
That's a legitimate take. It's not a hot take. That's very much mild, like dipped in ranch.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, legitimate takes.
Yeah.
We can't sell that.
All right, what about this one? The Cowboys move up from 12 to grab Tyler Warren, hoping for the next Jason Witten or Jay Novacek to join them.
Ooh, what was the name of the guy that they took from LSU tight end? Do you remember that from way back in the day?
Sternberger?
No. I just opened up Pandora's box. It was Tony Gonzalez and this kid, and I remember Troy Aikman was going to work out both of them, and then Tony Gonzalez goes on to the Hall of Fame. The other did not, but we can get research on that. That one, I'll give you hot on that one.
Okay.
Your first one, not hot.
All right, Seton.
I have Tua Tagovailoa traded tonight to either the Saints, Giants, 49ers, or Steelers.
Wow.
Yeah.
You almost literally floored him.
Yes.
I mean, I could use some milk.
Wow, that's a
Trying to tame the
hot
tongue.
take. Okay.
Tame the tongue here a little bit. Yeah.
Tame a Tunga Bailoa.
Yeah, vamos.
Yeah.
My other one is Trey Hendrickson traded tonight to either the Packers, Lions, or Commanders.
I like that one. I think that's spicy. I think that's a fun one. That's a fun one.
All right. The Tua Tagovailoa, you're not.
That would be incredible for us. We'll have an unbelievable night. We'll all fall out of our chairs.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you're trying to balance. Is it better to be something that's like more close to reality, or something like, yeah, that'd be crazy if that happened, because that's a hot take, right?
That qualifies.
You need a Laramie Tunsil night tonight, because there's not enough great names in this draft.
Look, Dan, I grew up in the home with a father as a pastor, and I'm live on air. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's in that mask. I've never seen one of those things before.
You've never smoked pot before.
No, but I'd never seen that contraption.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know how to respond to this. But I was like, he's a heck of a tackle, I can tell you that.
I'd take him high. Oh, no, I don't mean that way. All right, Paulie, your hot take for Daniel.
Was that tight end of LSU, David LaFleur?
Yes. Good pull.
I looked it up. All right. The Patriots will trade down out of 4 with the Bears. The Bears will trade up to 4 to get Carter out of Penn State.
So I've heard there's, again, the last 24 hours, a lot of chatter about the Bears trying to be aggressive to move up, whether that was to 3 or to 4, and Carter was the name.
So lightly hot.
Yeah, I think it's hot, but I think it's shared. I think that's floating around.
Jackson Dart will be drafted by the Saints at 9.
I don't think so. I think the Saints go quarterback in round 2. So that's I'll give you a hot take on that one. By the way, Dan, you asked Kurt what game keeps him up at night, and I just feel a little bit slighted that you didn't ask me that same question. Yeah.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Appalachian State.
It was
versus James
1998. Western Carolina. It was a cold day in Cullowhee, and I just had a tough time holding on to the ball, Dan. We lost the old mountain jug that day.
Fumbles, interceptions?
Yes.
All the above? And your draft stock.
Yeah, it's tough. That was a tough one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who plays quarterback the way you played quarterback?
Who plays quarterback the way I played quarterback? Man. Nobody in the NFL, unfortunately.
Dan Orlovsky?
Oh, yeah, Dan was a little better than I was, yeah, unfortunately.
He's Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network lead analyst, and I'll bother him tonight with a couple of text messages. When you go to commercial break, by the way, 8 Eastern, you can see their coverage with Rich Eisen leading the charge. Great to see you again.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you,
Appreciate
DJ.
you.